Now, the next piece of a solid inner foundation is emotional intelligence. And this is something that I've, in my 30s, see, I didn't have emotional intelligence when I was in my 20s. You see what I'm saying? Because I suppressed my emotions. I always suppressed my emotions. And the only emotion that people saw out of me was anger and excitement. I didn't even know how to identify the other emotions. But emotional intelligence is just your ability to um, identify and communicate emotions effectively. That's what emotional intelligence is. And as a man, you need to be able to do that. The best way to do that is to go sober for a little bit. So if you're a guy who smokes cigarettes or smoke weed or you drink, do away with it for about a year. You see what I'm saying? And because a lot of us tend to get on substances when we're young. Teenagers, we start smoking, we start drinking and shit, and we go through life. We go through life not learning how to manage our emotions and learning emotional intelligence because we typically don't have them. We don't know how to express ourselves emotionally. The only thing we can express is anger and shit. So the best way to because emotional intelligence is huge, right? And that'll make you a hell of a lot better leader. You'll be a much better leader, but a much better man. But what I'm saying is, one of the best ways to do that is to get sober and go through the process of starting to learn your emotions again. When I stopped smoking and drinking, but almost 5 years ago at this point, I was able to feel things that I never felt before, right? Or if I did feel it, I was always suppressing it. Like I said, we tend to, when we're young, we tend to start suppressing our emotions. And then when we get teenagers, we tend to smoke and drink and all this other shit. So we don't know what to do with them. And now when we get into a situation or we get into a relationship, we don't know how to communicate certain emotions effectively. And we default everything to anger instead of identifying, different emotions and being able to express and communicate them. So I would employ everybody who drink or smoke to get sober for a little bit. That way you can learn how to, identify your emotions, process them, and communicate them effectively. When you're able to do that, man, that's going to take your game to a whole nother level. It's very important that you learn how to communicate your emotions effectively, not just anger, not just excitement, but when you feel jealousy, when you feel hurt, when you feel betrayed, when you feel let down, when you feel passionate, when you feel horny, when you feel excited, when you feel depressed, when you feel fear, when you feel anxiousness, when you feel anticipation. All of these different emotions is good that you know how to identify and communicate them effectively to your woman. You understand what I'm saying? And when you're able to do that, now you got a lot of immature women who won't be able to handle that. But fuck, we ain't talking about them. We talking about good, solid, wholesome women. They'll appreciate you being able to say, hey, listen, listen, when you do this, it makes me feel like this, right? It makes me feel like this, and this is how I feel, and I don't like feeling like that. So we got to stop doing that. You see what I'm saying? That's when you healthy and you have emotional intelligence. But a lot of times you don't have that. When a woman do something, you just fly off the handle and you just screaming and hollering and, or you shut down, give them the silent treatment, and they don't know what the fuck going on. And all they see is anger or silence. You see? And they start to get frustrated and, downhill it goes. So always learn, remember, on the path to self-mastery and becoming a better person and becoming the best version of yourself, emotional control and emotional intelligence should take priority. You understand what I'm saying? So now the next piece in a solid inner foundation is mental stability, right? If you guy who's depressed all the time, take care of your depression. I'm not no therapist, so I'm not finna sit up here and give you no therapy lecture, but you got to do what you got to do to get your motherfucking mind right. Because if your mind ain't right, ain't nothing gonna be right. You see what I'm saying? If you depressed and you down and you on, hooked on drugs all the time, a woman ain't gonna really respect you. And the only women that's gonna typically come around and stay around are women who are bottom feeders and energy vampires to drain you. So you want to make sure you have that in check before you start seeking a relationship. You understand what I'm saying? Now, again, we all go through things in this society that, take a toll on our mental health. And, we all feel moods and this and that. We all get anxious. We all get scared. We all get, don't feel like getting up today, feel a little depressed here and there. But the key is to learning how to push past those, those mental states so you can do what you need to do. You see what I'm saying? Learning how to identify with it and learning and saying, okay, I feel like this today. It's cool. It is what it is. That's a part of life, and getting past it. You have to learn how to be able to. And I'm not saying that I'm just the most tip top mental guy. I'm not to say that because, that mental health shit is a beast, and the mind is very powerful. And sometimes you can lose control of yourself. But what I'm saying is you need to be doing everything in your power to make sure your mental health is top tier. And when it comes to relationships and dating, dealing with shitty women and dealing with women who don't respect you, dealing with women who taking advantage of you, dealing with women who flaking on you and ghosting you and treating you bad, that has a huge effect on your mental health. You understand? When I have this theory, and I believe this wholeheartedly. I believe God told me this. I believe this is how God wanted it to be. When we are not successful with the opposite sex, it tends to take a toll on our mental health. This is the penalty for not being able to reproduce. So, because you have to reproduce to sustain life. This is why sex feels so good. This is why having sex and orgasms release the most positive feelings in ourselves. That's the reward for reproducing. The thing that feels best, the things that feel the best give you the most reward. Like, having sex and orgasms and eating, these things feel the best. So this is why people do it so much. So what I'm saying is when you can't do that, it's going to affect you negatively, your mental health. So what I'm saying is identify the things in your life that's keeping you down mentally, and you either attack those things or get rid of them. You see what I'm saying? Because you want to make sure you tip top at all times, because in the relationship, you're going to be looked at as the leader. You're going to be looked at as the king, and you have to carry yourself as such. You understand what I'm saying? But that's the first thing that you need in a relationship that's the first thing that you should have in a relationship, or that's the first thing on the list, on a relationship checklist. And that's a solid inner foundation. You got to have a solid inner foundation.